Will, thanks very much for joining us. You recently obviously started as CEO of GSA, Global Student Accommodation. For those who don't know, just tell me a little bit more about that business.
The business was founded by Nick Porter, who originally set up Unite in the early 90s, and I guess is the founder of the PBSA space, certainly in the UK and probably realistically globally. So Nick is a great sort of guru to have around. I come from a background of real estate investment management, capital raising, and have a mandate as CEO to manage the business as well as I can, but also grow the business where sensible. So it's a great mandate to have in a world where the world of equity capital is flowing towards us and the wind is at our back. COVID aside, the long-term trend is towards alternative asset classes within real estate, and clearly we're a good version of that, cycle-agnostic. And if you then span the world in that sector, it obviously diversifies that further. We've seen the PBSA, purpose-built student accommodation space, grow over the last 30 years and become far more mature in many markets. There are lots of opportunities for us as GSA across the globe. And probably one of the most interesting is the immaturity of the PBSA space in some markets that would surprise you that they're as immature as they are. One of our jobs as a team is to work out where the low-hanging fruit is.
You mentioned there, Will, obviously COVID and the health crisis. Has that had any influence on, I suppose, international students, but also the types of accommodation people are looking for? Has GSA had to adjust in any way for that?
Yeah, the big trend that we'd all been seeing and will continue beyond COVID-19 is the movement of students around the world. We've even seen it in national politics, the fact that the UK has changed its policy to international students and given them more time in the country after their studenthood is over. Obviously, COVID has had an effect on the movement of international students, and therefore those markets with less exposure to international students have probably fared better over the past 6 months than those with the highest reliance on international student numbers. So that's almost turned the world upside down with regard to student housing investment. Look, I was in schemes in Bristol yesterday that we have, and clearly all the social distancing rules are all in play, and the operational side of the business is completely on top of that, just as you see in any other walk of life right now. The critical bit for us as a business is whether this will affect long-term design of PBSA. So in other words, our communities are a mixture generally of studios, so one-off rooms where students can look after themselves, or clusters where there's a shared kitchen, shared common room. And right now with COVID, studios solve that conundrum better than clusters. But if if there's a vaccine or whatever and COVID becomes less of an issue, then the world will go back to clusters more than studios. The international students, particularly those from Asia, often prefer the studio element. That's slightly more expensive. It's probably slightly better appointed. But obviously COVID has changed the rules slightly. Hopefully that's a short to medium term issue. And because it's short to medium term, I don't think it'll dramatically change design. We run 25,000 beds around the world at the moment, and we're having to watch all this 24/7. The difference between what I've done in the past and the student sector is there is a very sharp public face to the business. Parents, universities, parents, and then the day-to-day lives of students, safety, environment, design. Safety is the number one, by the way, in parents' minds, not necessarily in students' minds, but parents' minds and in our business.
And looking at the investment side, Will, are you looking to grow the business? What are you seeing in terms of international capital, their levels of interest? What's your sense of the general outlook?
As I said earlier, the wind is at our back from a capital point of view, and that's a nice situation to be in. We need to be good custodians of capital, of wherever it comes from. So that's our kind of number one target from an investor's point of view. I've got a mandate to grow the business globally. So it's not just a grow at all cost vision. It's to grow wisely in markets where we think we can get proper scale, that are, the booking system that we have will operate effectively. There's one element of student which is absolutely critical, and I think many constructors and then early entry operators of student accommodation don't get, which is that international movement of students, particularly in markets where, say, they're 60% plus reliant on international students. The ability to book students from, I'll give you an example, China to Ireland, to have a scheme in Ireland and to find the inquiries from Asia, China, wherever it may be, is absolutely critical in this business. And it gives the larger groups, as long as they've got a good operating platform, an advantage in doing that. It's one of those aspects that's not dissimilar, I guess, to logistics or retail, where you're looking for international retailers. We're looking for international students, single people who want to go to a university in a specific country, or have a choice of, say, the US or the UK or the Netherlands or Ireland, and we're trying to pick them up on our radar and then bring them into the best option for them, attached to a good university, one of our schemes, hopefully. So it's a very broad sector which has some very different challenges from some of the sectors that I've worked in before, but fundamentally, we will attract capital if we're a good operator, if we're giving consistent returns, and that we're offering a product that's structured in the way that international real estate investment capital can understand and is kind of used to, in a way.
Will, you mentioned global capital there. Are you seeing new capital coming into this space?
Yeah, look, probably the best example of that, Richard, is Blackstone buying the IQ business, a sizable business, UK only focused, but a big platform. So Blackstone coming into the sector per se is good news, kind of a gold star for the sector, and I would expect it to help accelerate that global capital flow further into the sector.
No, great. Congratulations again, Will, on becoming CEO at GSA, and look forward to seeing how that strategy drives forward. Thanks very much.